Hi, I'm Marsha Blanchard. I'm so excited to see you here. Welcome to this lesson. What I'm really hoping is that you're not going to only learn and listen to this information, but you will implement it. This information changed my life. It helped me to completely get rid of my eczema, and it can do the same to you if you use this information. So I really hope you're going to implement it in your personal life. So let's start. What you're gonna learn today is how you can control your eczema, and you can do it if you identify triggers, and of course if you avoid those triggers in your life. So let's talk a few words about what it's usually done for eczema in traditional medicine. What's traditionally done? And we're going to talk about most forms of eczema. This is true. And one of the most common form of eczema is atopic dermatitis that I have been diagnosed with, along with neurodermatitis. So those are diagnoses that I was giving. And if you have some other diagnosis of the eczema, this information is still true for most of the people who suffer from eczema in one or another form. So what's typical treatment is corticosteroid creams and antihistamines for allergy pills. I have been prescribed those pills and those creams 30 years ago, and they're still prescribing them right now. They improved them. It's like new generation. The antihistamine pills, they make you less drowsy than before. Corticosteroid creams, they're more powerful, but it's still the main one, the main course of treatment. Does it help? Yes, it does. It temporarily relieves symptoms, but as soon as you stop using them, symptoms go back. And of course, they also have very serious side effects. I was always concerned about them. For example, for corticosteroid creams, side effects may include increased risk of infection, cancers, thinning of skin, fragile bones, and the list goes on. Antihistamine pills, there's drowsiness, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, moodiness, trouble urinating, blurred vision, confusion, increased risk of catastrophic strokes. I was really shocked to read that those strokes that can occur in women in their 30s who take allergy pills on a regular basis. You see, side effects seems to be much worse than the symptoms of eczema itself. There's other mainstream treatment options which are prescribed if the first two are not working well. So immunosuppressants, drugs that suppress immune system, immunomodulators, drugs that reduce immune system reaction. Just by name, you know that they affect immune system. They lower immune system, and it increases the risk of infections, cancers, may cause high blood pressure and kidney problems. So it seems like there is no good option that the mainstream medicine can offer for people who suffer from eczema. Well, it's not only that. Eczema is also considered incurable. It's a lifelong disease. But there is a very big but that we're going to talk about. It's well known that in most people, eczema has identifiable triggers that cause the outbreaks. And most medical literature mentions the existence of those triggers. We're going to look at a few websites, very reputable sources. WebMD, it's a quote from webmd.com. Some people may have flare-ups of itchy rash in response to certain substances or conditions. Although there is no cure, most people can effectively manage their disease by medical treatment. They had to do that because, the pharmaceutical company want to see that always. And by avoiding irritants. The second part of the sentence, this is something that we're going to talk about, the avoiding of irritants. Another source, Medical News Today. The doctor will try to find out what triggers worsen the patient's symptoms. He or she, this is about eczema, this is an article that I got it from. He or she will ask the patient questions about lifestyles, soap, detergent use, diet, home environment, pets, where exactly the house is, and etc. Eczema Association of Australasia. Although the exact cause of eczema is unknown, it appears to be linked to the following internal and external factors: particular foods and alcohol. And there's examples: dairy and wheat products, citrus fruit, eggs, nuts, seafood, chemical food additives, preservatives, and colorings. Just those few examples show us it's well known that triggers are very important. But it's not just something nice to know. it can change the course of your disease. You can become completely free from symptoms if you find out all the triggers and you avoid all of them. It's hard, challenging, and there is a knowledge that you need to know. You need to know it's not just something you can kind of guess. There's a procedure. We're going to talk about that, but you can become completely free from symptoms. I know that because it happened to me, and I know if I was the most severe case of eczema that I have ever seen, actually, if it helped me, it can help everyone. The majority of people suffering from eczema. So now let me ask you a question. You just saw a few examples, and if you dig into medical literature, you will always find the mentioning of triggers. But have your lifestyle been analyzed in details by your medical doctor? It's very logical to do everything that we can to determine what are the culprits. But is it actually done in doctor's office? And I know from my experience, from my 30-year life experience, and I'm a registered nurse, I've seen a lot of patients with eczema. I know what's going on in the medical practice right now. I know the answer. Unless you're a rare exception, the answer is no. The vast majority of medical doctors will not spend their time helping you identify your triggers. Why? Let's see why. Why doctors don't help you to identify triggers of eczema? Many doctors get financial incentives from pharmaceutical companies. In other words, they make more money when they prescribe you drugs, and it's well known, especially in doctors in private practice. Also, it's much faster to order drugs to write your prescription than to analyze lifestyle. Diet analysis, for example, needs to include analysis of all ingredients, of all the foods you eat, all the lotions, all environmental factors. It's very time consuming, so they're gonna waste their time and their money, and they get paid per visit per patient. If they spend 5 minutes with you or 2 hours, they get paid the same way. Doesn't make any financial sense for them. Also, think about that. If they help you to identify your triggers, you will be able to control your eczema, and you will no longer need prescription medication. That's happened to me. I no longer go to my dermatologist. What does it mean to them? They lose you as a patient. And for example, atopic dermatitis, the most common form of eczema, accounts for about 20% of all visits to dermatologists. Do they want to lose 20% of their business? Of course they don't. So, you are on your own when it comes to really controlling your eczema. You're the only person who is truly interested in finding what causes your eczema so you can avoid those culprits and thus become eczema free. It's not your doctor. So again, what happens if you do find out the cause of eczema? If you find out everything that caused your eczema to flare up, all the factors, food, environmental factors, you will become completely free from symptoms, most people, or it can be significantly decreased. My story confirms that. I was able to identify, you probably won't really want to know what I was able to identify, right? What I found out is all added sugars. I have to avoid them. And this is challenging because there are many names of added sugars. Cane syrup, high fructose corn syrup, and so many others. I'm going to give you the list later. And it's added in so many processed food. Bread, prepared food, breads, like all kinds of prepared food. All the time I have to read ingredients, spaghetti sauce, everything. It seems like it. So just few brands, like right now I know what brands I can take, and it's only like usually, like I always follow the rule of only a few ingredients. There's and I need to know every single one of those ingredients. So this is challenging. You can see it. I mean, if I would just eat bread and get reaction, I would think, first of all, it's not right away, the reaction right away, and then second, you would think that it's from the wheat, for example, right? But it can be from any ingredient. Also, eggs and soy, which is common, that's easier to diagnose, and it's in the list of when they give you a list of possible triggers. Also, artificial food additives, I have to avoid that. And here's the thing, restaurant food is full of additives. you can never know what you're getting. So now I have to avoid eating out. I basically don't eat out because you never know what you're getting. So what you can learn from my story? The triggers can be a small ingredient in a food. Like I said, example with bread, I'm okay with grains, but it's the sugars that's the problem. Most spaghetti sauce, prepared foods, they have sugars, so I have to avoid that. Although I'm okay with tomatoes. Many different, and another thing you can learn from my story is that there are many names for the same ingredient that you have to avoid, such as cane sugar, honey. That's all forms of added sugar that I have to avoid. And there are unlabeled foods, such as restaurant foods, that have many additives. So those are just few lessons. Now, what happens? I know my triggers. I'm going to teach you how I find out that in a few minutes. But let's see what happens as a result. I no longer have eczema. My skin is perfect as long as I follow those rules that I have discovered for myself, that are important for myself personally. I no longer have eczema. And this is so important. After suffering for all my life with this disease, it's so huge, like it's life-changing. I don't have this itchy, dry, irritable skin that feels so uncomfortable and looks so bad, and it's a little swollen, so it doesn't look, I mean, it looks very unattractive, like looks terrible. And now, even if I when I eat something I'm not supposed to, I get this skin reaction, I feel in control still because I knew what caused it. So I stop doing the same, stop using this product. Usually it's like when I eat out on a party, then I get my reaction. But I feel in control because I'm gonna, I know it's gonna clear up after I go on back to my diet. So it's very empowering. How I felt before, I felt powerless because I had no idea what I can do to ease the symptoms except using meds. And meds, because of the side effects, I didn't use them for a long time because I mean I read the paper that they give you with the list of side effects. It's terrible. So I was only using them like really when I had to. And of course I was very self-conscious, I was depressed, and it's not just me, because I know by statistics people with severe eczema report their life quality is worse than those with congestive heart failure or diabetes. I definitely feel like that. I felt like that. I felt really unattractive. I looked really bad really often. For many months in a row, I looked extremely unattractive, and I was joking. I'm allergic to life because who can know that? Like, I mean, if I didn't know exactly how to find triggers, I had no idea. If you feel like this, I'm gonna give you some great news and great information. So this all can be changed. Are you ready to discover your eczema triggers? So let's, as I mentioned, the triggers can be environmental, material substances that come into contact with skin, household chemicals, animal dander, inhalation, perfume spray. None of that actually worked for me. I'm okay. Mine is the most common. It's food. We're going to talk about environmental triggers in the later lesson. In this one, we're going to focus on food. So, you'll probably think that it sounds like it's an allergy, right? Most of the time, it's actually not allergy. And it's something that's called food intolerance. And it's important difference, and I'm going to tell you why. Food allergy is immune system reaction that occurs soon after eating a certain food. The action occurs within minutes to 2 hours of eating. So it's very easy to understand what caused it. And food intolerance is detrimental reaction, which means like it's an abnormal bad reaction, and that's always often delayed. So that's the very important part, the timing and the immune system involvement. So let's talk about the timing. It's delayed reaction. It's very difficult to diagnose the offending food causing a food intolerance, which is the reason for your eczema, because the response generally takes place over a prolonged period of time. So causative agent and the response are separated in time and may not be obviously related. It's not obvious. Something you ate, it can be half an hour ago, which is very fast, but it can be up to 48 hours later. And it's very hard to understand. Something you ate 2 days ago caused you rash today. Another aspect, so I'm gonna emphasize on that reaction can occur up to 48 hours later. This is why it's hard to understand what are the triggers, and it's not well-known aspect of eczema triggers. Now, another aspect, as we said, it's not immune system reaction. Immune system may be involved or maybe not. In most cases, it's not involved. So the allergy tests are useless because the way allergy tests work, they identify chemicals that are part of immune system response, and if there's no those chemicals present, like immunoglobulin E and other chemicals, the allergy tests do not show you results. So you don't, it's useless. Like, you know, the skin prick test, when they put a lot of needles in your body and with different substances. It's useless for this type of reaction. So what is food intolerance? What's the mechanism? Mechanism is not well understood. There are many theories, such as you don't have certain enzymes, or your gut is more permeable, increased gut permeability. We're not going to go into those details. We're going to focus on hands-on applications, like what we can actually use for our life. And the reason we're not going into theories, because they're not really, there's no really like one main well-accepted opinion. So let's focus on what it means for us in terms of finding out what we can do. So if you have true food allergy, you're much more likely to be properly diagnosed. Why? Reaction is immediate and it can be confirmed by a lab test. When it comes to food intolerance, which is again most of the time eczema, if eczema is triggered by food, it's not food allergy, it's food intolerance. The allergy tests are useless, and the only way to find out triggers is by elimination diet. So let's talk a little more about food intolerance. We're going to talk about the elimination diet in a few minutes, just a little more about intolerance so you're clear on what it is. Food intolerance reaction much slower, can take, like as we said, several days. The culprits of the food intolerance are often foods that are eaten often, especially foods such as milk and wheat that consumed almost with every meal. So, I mean, that you eat it all the time, and that's why you have a reaction all the time possible. Slowness of reaction combined with the fact that foods are eaten often contributes that the cause of problem goes unrecognized, as we said. Another difference, allergy can be caused by small trace of food, like a little piece of food can cause peanut. You know how dangerous is peanut allergy. When people get swollen airways, it can be from tiny amount of peanuts. With food intolerance, it usually takes a full-size meal, and it's difficult to say that food intolerance begins, because in the beginning symptoms are very mild and then gradually get worse. In some cases, persons may start to develop more and more symptoms as the years go by and become intolerant to more and more foods. This actually can be reversed if you avoid those foods for some time, and then you end up being able to have those foods occasionally with no reaction. That's I'm gonna mention that later in the later lessons. Again, symptoms vary in severity. We know how food allergy, there's very strong reaction to peanuts can cause airway to get swollen and can cause anaphylactic shock. Well, that's so not the same picture with food intolerance. Symptoms are mild. They're not constant, they vary in severity, they even can come and go. Some not-food factors such as stress can make symptoms worse. And there is a fun fact about food intolerance, that often a person has cravings for the particular food that's the culprit of symptoms and often has a sense of well-being after eating it. Interesting to know. Now, again, as we said, skin test used to identify food allergies, such as skin prick test, do not work for most cases of food intolerance because immune system is not involved and no other test can be applied. And the only reliable test, the only reliable way to find out if the food is the problem and what foods are the problems is by following the elimination diet. Let's dive into that. What is elimination diet? It's also called exclusion diet. It's the process of avoiding all commonly eaten foods. It makes perfect sense if you think about that. You want to avoid everything you eat. You don't want to change it. You want to eat something else for 1 to 3 weeks until all symptoms clear up, and then introduce one food at a time. Okay, during the elimination phase, person eats only foods that are different from what he or she normally eats. It can be challenging because you have to really plan, and it has to be done 100% of the time, because if you have like 1 day break in the middle of this elimination phase, you get your symptoms, you're not clear what caused. So you want to make sure that all the you become clear with no symptoms, and it takes some time, like 1 to 3 weeks usually, for your symptoms to clear up. Now, the idea is that to avoid all the foods can be cause of the problems, and it can be very unique. It's unique for every single person. It means that all the foods that are eaten frequently has to be avoided, because anything can be a trigger. So let's talk about different types of elimination diet. The most extreme version is water fast for 5 days, which when you drink nothing but spring water. I'm not going to recommend you. I'm just giving this for your knowledge. This is hard for most people. It's contraindicated for people with certain medical conditions such as diabetes, because of they can have very low blood sugar. And actually, I mean, there are some benefits of water fast, which you can learn from different authors such as Paul Bragg, one of the American pioneers of the health in the health field. But this water fast, it's not something that I recommend. So we're going to talk about different types of elimination diet. There's, just for information, there's a lamp and pears diet. Someone came with that because it's very rarely eaten food items, so unlikely to produce a reaction, but that's not something that I recommend either, because it's too strict too. Now, what I do recommend is few foods diet. When you eat a dozen or more foods, I'm sorry, that so you create a list of dozen or more foods that normally you don't consume. So if you don't feel better after being on this diet for a few weeks, then you need to change the list of foods because it's possible that the culprits are included, and you need to replace them until you find the combination of foods that you do not have reaction to. Makes perfect sense. And there is a little version of this diet. It's called rare food diet. The idea is that you just go with the foods that are rare in general. For example, buckwheat, cassava, that's a rare for most people. That's what we use for that diet. Just a slight version. So this few food diet makes perfect sense, but it's not something you want to start. Before that, there is also less strict diet. When you avoid the most common culprits, such as milk, eggs, shellfish, peanut, tree nuts, soy, wheat, few other items that I'm gonna talk about in detail soon, and everything else is allowed. The problem that this diet doesn't allow to figure out all unique food intolerance. It only focuses on the main ones, the most common ones. But since foods that I avoided here are the most common causes, it makes perfect sense to first try this approach. If this doesn't work, then you can move to few food diet. So something I recommend is this least restricted diet, when you first avoid the most common culprits. And I'll give you the list in details. So again, you avoid milk, egg, shellfish, peanut, tree nuts, soy, wheat, and few other items such as alcohol, sugar. Um, about that in a minute. Okay, now we you get the idea more, but about elimination diet. But before going on into elimination diet, we need to do 1 month or more of healthy eating plan. So before doing elimination, 1 month of healthy eating plan. This is very good. That makes perfect sense too. During this step, the foods and drinks that have a drug-like reaction on the body are eliminated. So you eliminate coffee, tea, soda, cacao, chocolate, and all forms of alcohol, and you also avoid sugars, histamine-rich foods such as well-ripened cheeses, salami like sausages, tuna, mackerel, canned fish, so sauerkraut, red wines, champagnes, they excluded. All types of additives. So now, what it means that you cannot eat out or use frozen dinners or use anything that has more than few ingredients that you clearly know what are the ingredients. Frozen dinners and restaurants, the food have too many additives. The reason for the exclusion of the above listed food is because they're frequent sources of problems. So for 1 month, the healthy eating plan, when you avoid those foods that have drug-like reaction, and we just listed them. Now, step 1 should run for at least 1 month, but can be continued as long as you wish. Sometimes you can have occasional meal off, hopefully not, in moderation if you're really like somewhere in the party, and avoid alcohol, tea, and coffee. So what happens? During this stage, you might have withdrawal symptoms, particularly caffeine withdrawal. This is only temporary, so bear with it. It's like a week. Usually people have headaches. What might happen? You might completely improve during this stage and don't even need to go to elimination stages. That would be the best. So for me, like I almost always follow this healthy living plan because basically that's, with a few exceptions, like how you already know, that's most of the things that I need to do. That's all I need to do, with the exception of eggs and soy. Now, during this healthy eating, just to emphasize, so you're clear on what you're doing during healthy eating, you avoid coffee and tea, including coffee flavored cakes, chocolate, cacao. You include chocolate flavored items. You avoid. I was going to say, you avoid soda drinks or alcoholic drinks, all coloring, preservative, antioxidant, stabilizer, flavor enhancers, flavorings, thickens, emulsifiers, and other additives, which means you can only eat food where you know all the ingredients, and it's just few basic ingredients. So when you go shopping, just few basic ingredients that you're clear on. Know those weird long words that you don't even know what they mean, because that's most likely one of those food and flavor enhancers of preservatives. Now, you want to avoid salami-like sausages and very ripe cheese due to high histamine content. You want to avoid anything that makes gut more permeable, and such as spicy food, raw pineapple and papaya, aspirin, and other NSAIDs. Artificial sweeteners such as saccharin, and you want to avoid sugars and all foods containing added sugars. What are the names for sugars? As I promised, there's a list of all foods, all names for sugars: white and brown sugar, corn syrup, molasses, maple syrup, malt, barley sweetener, jam, chutney, pickles, cakes, cookies, ice cream, puddings. All those stuff has sugar. Candies, soda, or any food that has ingredient labeled corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, glucose, maltose, sucrose, and sugar. Many just like I said already, many prepackaged food contain added sugar. Please read all the ingredients. So now, also you will need to avoid all fast foods and restaurant foods. Why? Because they have so many additives. This is probably the hardest aspect. So you want to read all the labels, and the safest is to cook from scratch. Now, what you can eat. Plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits, especially green leafy vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, hot cereals, of course no sugar, no additives. You can have whole grain bread, fresh meat and fish, whole grains, herbal teas. And what's going to happen as a result? One of the possible outcomes, you're going to feel much worse, and that's due to withdrawal symptoms. I had clients who felt much worse, but just bear with it, because it's going to go in about a week. It's we know caffeine has addictive properties, but other foods have much less addictive properties, but it's changing habits, and it might be challenging for your body, but it's only temporary. Now might be feeling much better, so you might be still having a mild reaction to foods that are allowed. So some of the foods that you have reaction have been removed, for example, additives, but you still have something that you're eating that you have reaction. For example, like if you have reaction to grains, you have to avoid them, which we're going to do elimination diet. So if you're feeling partially better, you can keep on doing that and then go to the next stage. Now, feeling a lot better, great. If you feel well for at least a week, you can begin testing. Now, some people, this health eating plan is all they need. You know that it's well known right now fact that children who eat fast food at 3 times a week or more, they have much higher occurrence of eczema. So for many of those children, just avoiding artificial additives in the food would be all they need to clear their eczema. And of course, then you can reintroduce some of the stuff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But many people don't have to go into elimination diet. If you're completely free, you don't from your symptoms after eating healthy, it means you can already see that the food that were excluded, some of them were the problem. Now you want to know which one, right? So that's something you'll find out during the introduction step. It's a testing step. So once you remove all that stuff that we talked about, then you probably want to reintroduce some of them, at least some of them, maybe, well, I hope not all the artificial stuff. But the way you do it, you take one test food, you take one in a week, and you do it for a week. For example, you take tea and you drink it only like this specific tea, like for a week. If there is a reaction, you need to stop right away. Wait until symptoms are clear and then go for the next item. So you know you cannot have tea, your body doesn't tolerate it well. It's not typical, it's unique, but that you have discovered that. At the end of the testing, you can, if you have been clear, you introduce everything and you're still clear, it means you have no food sensitivity to these items, which, you can go into elimination diet and see what I actually meant is that you can reintroduce food that you have no reaction to. So if you clear whatever you clear on, there's no reaction, you can reintroduce them at the same time at the end. So you test one item at a time, and then you tested tea this week, next week you test sugar, and you don't have tea the second week anymore. Third week you're testing, for example, a specific food additive, and you do not test at the same time tea and sugar. So that's you get the idea. So it's one item per week. So, and here is an example of what you can reintroduce: tea 1 week, another week coffee, another week white wine, another week any particular food additives, for example, added sugar or other additives, one at a time. Now, just a word of caution, you need to be careful because many prepared food have a lot of ingredients, so you need to clearly know which ingredients you're testing. And choose foods with few ingredients only, it's much easier. Eating out is very difficult for people with food intolerance. Most of the time restaurant food has so many additives, that you never know what you're getting. I personally gave up on eating out because most of the time after I eat out, I get this dry, itchy, irritable skin. It's just not worth it. So if I have my food with me, and I mean, if when I buy something, I only buy from few ingredients that I know every single one, and I'm fine with that. But not everybody is like that, so it does mean that you have to be like this. And again, consider each ingredient. Example, reaction to lemonade, right? I, I, Citrus fruits are always on the list of common allergies, but it can be it doesn't have to be citrus fruit. It can be your reaction from sugar. Like in my case, I always all my life I thought I'm allergic to citrus fruits because they give you this list, right, of common food allergies. I don't have that, but when I drink lemonade, I get reaction from sugar, not from lemon. The same bread, I already told you that I'm okay with wheat, but the sugar, or it can be also yeast or any other ingredient that causes you. So triggers are very unique, and you need to consider every ingredient. So now, so healthy eating, we have finished with healthy eating, and now the next step that you want to do is elimination diet. If you're not completely free from symptoms, then you need to look at more details at the food that you're still eating, and it's going to be the next step. Phase 1, the least strict type of elimination diet, which I mentioned, when you avoid the most common types of food intolerance that can be causing you eczema. And it's going to be coming in the lesson number 2, and I'm going to email you link to that video in your inbox, so please check your email, and I'm looking forward to talk to you soon. And until then, just follow the healthy lifestyle you can that we talked about. Something that you can already do right now because you already have all the information. I'm looking forward to see you again. Bye bye.